Welcome to the Just As We Are podcast. I'm Katrina Lelly, certified life coach, aspiring author, lover of people, mama in recovery, and student of life. Each week, I will bring you love, inspiration, the real life stuff people are afraid to talk about, and guests who are willing to shine their light for you. I give you self-care practices and mindset tips to help you shatter the negative stories you tell yourself. Now is the time to step into the beautiful, loved, whole woman you already are. Let's walk this journey together. Welcome back to the Just As We Are podcast, you guys. I'm super excited to be here with you, and I have my first official guest that is here with me, Heidi Brower, and I cannot wait to dive into this conversation with her. She's a mom of four, married, fitness instructor, personal trainer. She has such a beautiful story to share, and I can't tell you guys, when we first started talking on the phone, we met through a mutual friend, and she already had me like in tears and some goosebumps coming up just from her story. And we didn't even get into all of the details. So Heidi, welcome. Thank you so much for being here and just helping me and supporting me in this mission and being the first to be brave enough to come and have a conversation and to just share your story, because, you know, I think it's so important that we share our story more and that people speak up, because you know, I was at a women's retreat this weekend and the theme was belonging. And, you know, the more we talk, the more we realize that we're not alone.
Absolutely.
In either the way we're feeling or what's going on, or, you know, and just talking with somebody, another person, there's such magic in that. And it deflates like this big balloon that we build up, or this big pressure that we put on ourselves, and just that conversation. So tell us a little bit about where you're from, all of that good stuff.
Okay. Well, thank you for inviting me. So I grew up in Ellensburg, Washington, just on the other side of the mountains, and really small town. Everybody knew everybody. And I lived there until I was about 12, and then we moved to Arizona for 3 years, and then ended up coming back to Ellensburg. So that's where I went from about 15 till I graduated high school, and I'm the oldest of 7 kids, and so it was just a really busy household, busy time in our lives, and I played a lot of, I played basketball, my brothers played baseball, sisters played sports, baseball, or softball, she did play football one season, but, so we were just a very active family, and religious family, and pretty conservative, and I loved growing up.
Which side of the mountains do you prefer?
So actually this is funny, because when we were growing up, I kind of felt like people on the west side, like it was the snobby west siders, whatever. But we could never go back to live on that side. We love it over here. We love the convenience of everything. But I love going back just to have the hometown feel. Yeah. But then when I need something like at a mall or something, and I don't want to drive a half hour away, then I'm like happy that we live over on this side. So, and it's beautiful over here.
Yeah, and I bet you can go back, and that's when you can take that time to slow down.
Yes.
My mother-in-law goes over there often, and she wants to move there eventually, and because she likes that slow town, and I totally get that. So, yeah, that's awesome.
It was a great place to grow up.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. So, married, kids.
Yeah, I been married 14 and a half years. It'll be 15 in April. To a man who's amazing and wonderful and supportive, and he is from Oklahoma, so we bleed Sooner Red in our house. And I have 4 kids, 12. Oh, she's almost 13. I have 2 kids almost turning, so I have almost 13-year-old girl, an 11-year-old boy, a almost 9-year-old son, and a 6-year-old son.
Wow, you have a house full.
Yes,
kind of like me.
We're crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, that middle-age year stuff gets very interesting.
Yes.
And my my oldest daughter, my stepdaughter, she's just 13, but getting into that, and my twins, they're 10, they'll be coming up on it soon, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. I hope they have support groups out there, seriously, because, Yeah.
Well, it's fun because they're sometimes awkward, but other times they're so fun. Like my teenager, we'll say, because she's pretty much a teenager.
Yeah.
She is so funny. And I will sometimes just laugh at the things that she comes up with because she's witty and she's quick. But other times, you know, I am like, oh gosh, she's a teenager and she's sassy. But she is becoming one of my best friends and it's so much fun. I actually really enjoy this part of like the growing children instead of just having babies. Mm-hmm. But I mean, the babies were fun too.
Yeah.
But this is a fun time.
Yeah. It's interesting to have that dynamic in my house with the baby, Caleb being one, and then Tristan and Cassidy and Haley all older. And it's like, I'm kind of reminded, you know, I love the baby stage. I love like just reliving all of that, but seeing them interact with the younger.
Yes.
Do all the siblings have good relationships in your house?
I mean,
or
not really. You know, the boys fight like boys, and my oldest gets bugged by her brothers, but overall we had a moment yesterday, where we were gonna, we like naps in our house. Well, I like naps in my house.
I love naps.
And my husband and I were laying on our bed, and there was a moment where all four of our kids were on the bed with us, and we were just kind of having conversation about life. And I was kind of whispering to him, like, just live in the moment. Like, this isn't going to be very often that all four of our kids are wanting to be in here with us. And so we just kind of took that moment in for a little while, and they were driving us crazy, but we were all laughing and having fun. And then it was short-lived, and so I just want to make sure I enjoyed that. And then they left and I took a nap. So
no, I love that. I have to remind myself too, because my son still loves to snuggle with me, and it's like, that's not going to be here forever, and I'm going to miss it. You know, I'm realizing, so I breastfed Caleb. No, I didn't breastfeed anyway. But I realized that I already missed that. Like, it goes so fast. All of these stages just go so fast. And
for sure.
It's so much, it's fun. So, fitness instructor, personal trainer, is that your passion? How long have you been doing that?
So I am I've been in the fitness industry for over 10 years. So I've always loved fitness. I started lifting weights when I was 15 years old in high school. And I fell in love with that. And then I went to college, took a couple kickboxing classes, loved that. Told myself someday I was going to be a kickboxing instructor. Got married, had babies, and then that was kind of the right time. But I think when my son was a toddler, I got back into working out a lot and taking kickboxing. And I think between my second and third child is when I decided to go for it and like start learning how to teach kickboxing. And so that's where I first started, and then it branched out into like teaching circuit and subbing for boot camps and all other kind of high impact stuff except Zumba. I am not a Zumba girl. I can't. I'm a more freestyle dancer. But
I like to try Zumba. I can only imagine what it looked like.
It's fun to try, but it's just not my thing. And I continue to lift weights, and I always told myself that after my youngest got into kindergarten, that's when I would become a personal trainer so that I could work while my kids were at school, because being at home is really important for me to be with them. And so I got my training cert and the spring right before he went into kindergarten. And so I've been personal training for, I don't know, he's in first grade, so 2.5 years. And I love it. I love helping women, find their inner strength and know that they can lift weights and they're not going to look like a man, and they just the inner strength that it takes to do that for yourself and find that you can be strong and you can have muscles, and it's just really good for you. So it's really just a passion of mine to work with women, especially. I have had a couple male clients, but I really love working with women. That's
awesome. I love that it's come out more recently and talked more about recently that just because you lift weights doesn't mean you're going to get all burly and look like one of those women bodybuilder women that you don't want to.
It's a different style of training.
Yeah.
If you want to become a bodybuilder, that's a whole different style of training. But if you want to just be fit and help your metabolism and your bone density and all that other kind of stuff, then that's where lifting weights just on a regular basis is really good for us as women. And it's a really good stress reliever.
Yeah.
So
yes,
that's really important. I love just helping women learn how to have self-care and taking care of themselves so that they can better take care of their family members and loved ones. And that's what I love to do.
Right. Because we can't take care of ourselves we can't take care of anybody else if we're not taking care of ourselves.
For sure.
And I run into women all the time who, you talk to them and it's like, I got to get this done, I got to do this, and it's, I want to, what are you doing? What did you do for yourself today?
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be a huge, big thing. Can be just that, 15 minutes in the morning. Did you journal? Did you sit and just enjoy your coffee by yourself or whatever, or go to the gym? I know, exercise is a huge, I'm not as consistent at it as I'd love to be, but I'm working on that. But it's such a huge, I am a better mom, a better wife, and a better person when I'm exercising.
Yeah, for sure.
And sometimes it's not even for, the look or the feel. It's just to get that stress out. And
there's really endorphins going, and that all stuff kind of helps. Yeah.
Yeah. So, tell me a little bit more about your story. You had a daughter when you were younger. So so open up and share a little bit about that story.
Yeah. So like I said before, I grew up very conservatively, pretty religious family, and it was at a time where it was almost 18 years ago, and I'll be honest, sex wasn't talked about a whole lot. It just wasn't. It was, I think that it was just believed that we knew that we were going to have sex before marriage, and that was it. And there wasn't really a whole lot of discussions about it. And I had a boyfriend when I was a junior in high school, and it got pretty serious, and then meaning I was really not paying attention to anybody else. And it was young love and, all those kind of things. And my senior year of high school, I got pregnant. And I actually never took a pregnancy test. I kind of ignored it. This was towards later at the end of my senior year. So I was planning on going to college. And that was my life plan. And I was going to kind of get away from him. And he had his life planned. And every once in a while we talk about maybe going away to college and coming back and getting married or whatever. But I kind of knew that that's not really what I wanted, because he at times was great and at other times he was not great. He was emotionally abusive. He was manipulative and verbally abusive. And that was really hard to take. And so there were numerous times where we had broken up and gone back together. It was kind of this it was kind of the joke of the school that we were like this soap opera of being together and then breaking up and being together and breaking up and whatever. And I really feel like we loved each other in that sort of way that only 17-year-olds can really love each other. Because life isn't really hard yet.
Right.
But we cared for each other, but then there were times that was really bad where I just felt like a piece of trash. And if I didn't do what he wanted me to do or be with him, then he would maybe harm himself or, I don't know, threaten other things. And I always felt like that was something that maybe I could prevent and help him with. And so that was really manipulative. And I think that he struggled a lot with mental health, and not a lot of people talked about that either at that time. Mm-hmm. And so it was really taboo to talk about. And now looking back on it, I wish that we had the resources that we do now. That maybe I could have helped him in other ways, but like I said, but sometimes we're really great. And it was this young love, and I got pregnant and I didn't tell anybody, and I didn't even tell him. And I went off to college, and I still didn't tell anybody. And it was a long time. I never knew how far along I was. I'm the oldest. At that time, I was the oldest of 6. And so I knew how to take care of myself from watching my mom take care of herself. Because my whole life, my mom has been pregnant, when I was that age. And so I knew that I couldn't take Excedrin or anything that was I can take medication. And I knew that I needed to drink a lot of water. And I knew that I needed to eat healthy. And I slept a lot. My freshman year of college was awful because I slept a lot. And I think everybody thought I was just gaining weight, the freshman 15. Oh. But I knew I was pregnant, and I kept praying and wishing it away. Lord, I will do anything to take this away. If you would take this away from me, I have my whole life to live. All this other stuff, trying to bargain with God, which always isn't the greatest idea.
And you hadn't told anybody?
No, I hadn't told anybody until October of 2001. I called him up over the phone, and I said, oh no, I went home to visit. And I went to hang out with him and see him, and I told him that I was pregnant, and he's like, what do you mean you're pregnant? And I was like, well, I'm pregnant, and you're the only option. And And he's like, well, you have to have an abortion. And I stopped him and I was like, that's not really an option. That's not the baby's fault. It's our doing. And he's like, well, you're ruining our lives. And I was like, okay, but we already made this choice.
Right.
And it's happened.
Yes.
And so I know that this is a hard thing, but I don't know what we're going to do. I was like, we either need to be parents or adoption, or I don't know or I'm going to single parent. Like, I just didn't, we were kind of talking through it, and he was really upset and saying, I don't know how we're going to handle this. And I'm like, I don't know either. We should have thought about that a long time ago. And he just told me again, he's like, but you have to have an abortion. And I'm like, and I told him again, that's not an option for me. So we had talked a little bit about maybe getting married, but I knew deep down that that was not what I wanted for my baby. I didn't know if baby was a boy or girl at that time. And I just knew that that's not what I wanted for the baby. And because of the relationship that we had was so toxic that I just didn't know if I could bring this baby into our lives like that. And so I went back to school and I came home for Christmas and still nobody knew. I'm 5'10", and so I always tease that babies are standing up in me because I am small. Yeah. And where I went to school, it was very, very, very cold in the winter. So I wore a lot of sweatshirts, a lot of jackets, a lot of things that covered things up. And I went back home for Christmas. It was the worst Christmas of my whole entire life because I did not want a single gift. My parents still did not know. Wow. It was awful. I look back at pictures of me at that Christmas and I am like, I looked awful. Wow. You know, like when you're pregnant, you're like puffy, you're like pale sometimes. You just look awful.
Awful. Yes.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not cute. I'm not a really cute pregnant girl. And so I just look back at pictures and be like, but I think that my parents had zero even thinking that that was a possibility, so they didn't look for it.
Gotcha.
You know, so then my birthday's in January, and I decided it's such a stupid reason, and I need people to understand that when they hear stories like girls not telling people that they're pregnant or not knowing that they're pregnant, it's because you don't want it so bad that you put it aside in another compartment in your brain to make it not true. So,
I would have never thought about that.
Yeah.
Because I've seen those shows where I didn't know I was pregnant, and I'm like, how in the world do you not know you're pregnant? Like, I know before I go take something in me has said, which is baffling to me. Like, how does that even come up? But
I think that because I was so ashamed of being pregnant that I tried to compartmentalize my life and say, well, that's part of my life and I'm not even going to think about it. And I'm not even going to, like, I hardly had any symptoms other than being tired.
Yeah.
I was never sick. Nothing like that ever else. It was just, I was tired all the time and I really just tried to forget about it. And so I get that people just try and like forget about it and not want to think about anything that has to do with being pregnant. And so, in January, I decided, well, I have to tell my parents before tuition is due. That was my point of like, I should probably tell my parents now because I don't want to owe more money than I'm already going to have to. So the day before my 19th birthday, I went and talked to our church bishop and I, told him that I was pregnant and he's like, how far along are you? And I said, I have no idea how far along I am. And
I forgot you hadn't even been to a doctor yet.
I had not been to, that's another thing that I feel stupid about. But at the same time, I was 18, barely 19. I was 18 at the time. So you don't think. You think so much about like, well, how's this going to affect my life? You're not really thinking about your baby's life at the time.
No.
And that is one thing that I do wish maybe, thankfully she was healthy, but I wish that maybe that was something I would have been a little bit more concerned about was making sure that she was okay. And so I went to the bishop, talked to him. He said, well, we need to call your parents. He said, I'm going to give you your birthday off. But then the day after you're going to need to come in and we'll call your parents together. And I'm like, thank you, sir. That's so kind.
That was very nice of you.
Very nice of you. Worst birthday of my life, 19th birthday. My mom had like sent me something and she was upset that I didn't call her and thank her for it. But it was because I was so guilty. Yeah. I felt so guilty and I knew I was going to completely crush her the next day. And so I went in the next day and at the time, he had a caseworker come in that worked with an adoption agency just to give me the option. Now, I had never heard about adoption before except for in the movies. And when I talk about movies, I mean like taking baby away from mom never seeing the baby, never knowing what happened to her baby type situation. So I was kind of very like leery about it. Like, I don't know if this is something I want to do. And she came in and started talking to me about, I get to choose who the baby goes to. I get to go through counseling. I get to maybe it would be semi-open, so I would have some communication with them and some not. And basically, when she said it was up to me where this baby went, and that it was 100% my choice, that she was not going to force me into anything, my bishop wasn't going to force me into anything, and maybe hopefully my parents weren't going to, that it was going to be my choice, I kind of felt like, okay, maybe that's an option for me. Yeah. I still didn't know at the time, but I thought maybe that was the right option. And so I told my parents, and that was the second hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life, was I called my mom and I told her that I was pregnant, and I could just literally hear her heart break over the phone. And I lost it. And she accidentally hung up on me, where I thought at the moment that she did it on purpose.
Oh my gosh.
But she accidentally did. And we talked about that a little bit later. Yeah. How it was an accident and she never wanted. But before she called me back, she wanted to make sure that she had her thoughts under control. Yeah. And then she called me back and talked to me. And I said, well, you got to tell Dad. Because I was really kind of afraid of my dad. And I honestly thought that my dad that they were going to kick me out and say, you've messed up, you've made our family embarrassed, whatever. I thought my life is over with my family. And so she said, okay, I'll talk to your dad, and basically we're going to have to come get you. So I was at school in Idaho, and I was kind of packing my stuff up in my apartment. I was devastated, crying, upset that I had to leave because I'd made so many friends, and I knew that I needed to go home and take care of and have a baby and take care of that whole situation. And I would say maybe an hour later, I was in my room. I remember exactly what I was doing too. I was in my room, standing up on a stool, getting something down off of my closet to try and pack up some stuff. And somebody came in and said, Heidi, your dad's on the phone. And I was like, okay, thinking, this is it. He's going to tell me that I'm the worst human being in the whole world. And he got on the phone and he said, Heidi, we are upset, disappointed, sad, hurt, feel betrayed, all of these things that you could feel. But he says, but I want you to know that I love you and we will be by your side 100%, whatever it is that you decide to do. And I just broke down and cried, and I was like,
you just gave me chills when you said that.
But it's, my dad and I didn't really have a great relationship. It was very much teenage girl versus dad relationship, where, you know, like, he didn't really want me to go be hanging out with my boyfriend all the time. And I thought he was being stupid, or whatever teenagers think about their parents. Yeah. And so I was kind of a little bit afraid of my dad. Not that he ever, like, beat us or abused us or anything like that. It was like, maybe it was a healthy fear. Yes. So,
yeah. So, I think probably a lot of women can relate. I'm just thinking of you. You go through all of this. You're by yourself, and oh my God, I can't imagine going through all that whole, not telling anybody for the longest time, then sharing it with your boyfriend who's like, you just need to get rid of it, and and then, what are you going to do? And then you got to tell your parents.
I felt very alone. It was it was very devastating. It felt very alone. But I'll tell you, telling them, as hard as it was, I also felt a weight lifted off of me. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, I'm done hiding. Right. Because I hated living that double life.
It's hard. It is hard work. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, they came to get me that weekend, and I remember just not wanting to look at them in the face and being like, this sucks. Oh, man. But, they were super supportive through the whole time, and they just said, we're going to love you and support you. If you choose to keep, we're going to be right there to help you. If you choose to get married, we're going to be right there to support you. If you choose to place the baby for adoption, we're going to be there for you. And, I went home, and then my parents found out that I hadn't been to the doctor yet, and they were kind of upset at me for that. Rightly so. Yeah. Yeah. And I went to the doctor. So remember, I still don't know how far along I was. Right. I have no idea. Yes. I go into the doctor. Now, as a mom who I've had 5 babies, now I get what weeks mean. Yeah. So I went into the doctor, and he's doing my very first ultrasound, and he's like, well, and so birth father's there with us. Boyfriend is there with my mom. My mom, birth father, also was kind of my boyfriend at the time, kind of not. I don't know. We were kind of in this limbo of trying to figure out what we were going to do with our lives. And then me on the table, and he's doing my ultrasound. He's like, you're 36 weeks along.
Holy cow. Holy cow.
And here I am. What does that mean? painted.
Wow.
His birth father's face is kind of like, I don't know what that means either.
Yeah.
And I asked the doctor, I go, what does that mean? He said, you could have birth any day now.
Wow.
He's like, you are pretty much to full term. You could have this baby any day. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, that's his name. That's something.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Anyways, I did some counseling sessions, and I decided to move down to Utah to be with, to get out of Ellensburg, honestly.
Yeah.
I needed to get out of Ellensburg and away from everything, because there was a lot of really hard influences. I kept getting it from everywhere. Well, you need to keep, and you need to get married, and you need to whatever, and you can't give this baby away. And even though I felt in my heart that that was the right thing to do, because she needed more than what I could give her at the time. And so I moved to Utah. I moved in with a couple who adopted 2 little boys. And they were always willing to open up their home to anybody who needed a place to stay while they were going through that whole process. And so the second I met them, though, I felt like I had known them before. Like, I'd known them forever. Like, we just become instant family. And it was so amazing for me to be able to see the whole other side of adoption and how desperately they wanted babies and they couldn't have their own. And they got these 2 boys.
Yeah.
And so I became like their bigger sister. I became like their family. And it was amazing. And so they gave me an estimated due date of February 21st. But she ended up being born on February 11th. So 2 weeks after I got to Utah, I went into labor with her. And so February 11th now all of a sudden I'm blanking on what time she was born. Anyways, really, really early in the morning, I held this perfectly beautiful baby girl who was 6 pounds, 15 ounces. And I fell completely in love with her. And I knew that I had already wanted to place her for adoption. And I had already told myself that once I tell the couple that she's going to, that they're going to get this baby, I will never take that away from them. And so, because I had heard stories of, which I had the full right to keep her if I wanted to. Absolutely. She was my baby.
Yes.
I had that right. But I knew that the right choice was to place her in the arms of another mom and dad who could take care of her, how I couldn't. And side note, birth father was super supportive in the whole adoption thing. And he said, you're right, that's probably the best option for us. That's what we're going to do. I will sign papers. I will do whatever. That's what needs to be done. She needs to live in a better situation than what we could give her. And so he was very supportive in that. And he flew down to Utah the day that I had her. And he was there with us in the hospital, got to be with her a couple days, got to helped me pick out who her adopted parents were. So at the time, nothing was done online like it is now. But we had a piece of paper, and it was basically a letter written to potential birth moms. And I read the letter, and I just felt like, I feel really good about these guys. Like, I feel good. That's a really weird process, because you would read letters from adopted parents, and you would immediately know my baby's not the right for them, but you would feel guilty. Like, I would feel guilty and be like, I don't like telling them no, or I feel bad putting their profile back, or whatever it was. But with these guys, I felt right. It just felt right. I felt good. It felt right. And so my mom and dad showed up in Utah, and I showed my mom the letter, and I'm like, how do you think these guys sound? And she's like, I think they sound amazing. I only had 2 stipulations. One, that they would be athletic of some sort. Okay. And 2, that she would get to be the oldest. Because I wanted her to go to a family that hadn't had babies yet. That makes sense. I wanted her to be the first. And so those are my really only 2 stipulations. I mean, there's others. A lot of other things that you look at and look for and how you feel, but
I know. I'm thinking, how do you choose a family for this precious little baby to go to?
I was very prayerful about it, and I just really felt like I was led by God to this couple. I just felt like it was where she was supposed to be, and I just felt peace and comfort, I guess, in my decision. I think maybe if it wasn't right, I wouldn't feel that peace or comfort, but I felt peace. And so I picked them, and their caseworker called them in that day. They didn't know anything had happened. They didn't even know their profile was getting looked at.
Oh, wow.
Their caseworker called them in and handed them a pink envelope and said, this is for you. And they opened it up and said, your baby was born, and she was born at 3:38 a.m., by the way.
There you go. There you go.
Remembered.
Mom brain, it comes eventually.
Yes. And it said, and they kind of looked at the card and they're like, wait, she's already born? And they're like, yeah, she was born this morning.
Oh,
and
wow.
they said, oh my gosh. And they went, and their caseworker said you would have been able to pick them out at the mall if you were there that day, because they were buying everything that they needed for this baby to bring home. Well, I ended up meeting them the next day, and they hadn't met the baby yet. So I just remember walking into the room and seeing them and meeting them for the first time and being like, you guys are her parents. Like, I felt so strongly that they were supposed to be her parents, and that I was just the way for them to get their baby.
Yeah.
And it was such a bittersweet moment because I loved being with them. They felt like family to me. Like, we talked for hours and we just got to know each other. And she was actually a dancer. She's a beautiful dancer. And this was during the time of the 2002 Olympics in Utah.
Yeah.
And so she said, could we wait and get the baby the next day, tomorrow on the 13th, because I have to dance at this like festival or something that had to do with the Olympics. And I'm like, yeah. I'm thinking, yeah, I'll stay in the hospital another night with my baby.
Right? Yeah.
And the nursing staff was amazing. They really knew that it was important for me to spend all this time with her that I could. And I remember a nurse coming in and being like, do you want us to take her so that you can sleep? I'm like, no, I'll have the next rest of my life to sleep. Like,
yeah.
I need to spend every moment I have with her. And
were you worried at all that spending that time with her would make it that much harder?
I knew that it was going to be hard, but I also, because I
there's
did
no,
nothing.
There's no
nothing,
easy about it, but yeah.
I did nothing but cry and hold her for those 2.5 days.
Yeah.
But I also felt at peace again. I felt like this was the right decision for all of us involved.
I think that's when we know we're in God's will.
Absolutely.
We're working for the purpose of God.
Absolutely.
And it's divine. When
Yep.
we're at that peace,
yes.
no matter how hard it is, there's that peace.
Yes, so hard.
Oh.
The hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. I hope to never have to do something that hard again, but I just felt at peace.
Mm.
And so I spent all this time with her, as much time as I could. I wrote her letters for her to be able to read when she's older, like explaining why I chose to place her for adoption. And so on the 13th, I don't think I slept much from the 12th to the 13th that night, February, because I just knew that they were going to be there.
Right.
And that would mean that I would have to hand my baby over.
Yeah.
And so I remember maybe around 11 or noon or one of those times, the caseworker, my counselor, came in and she said, they're here, but they want to give you as much time as you need. They're not rushing you. You do whatever you need to do. And so my mom and dad and 3 of my siblings came, and everybody had their moments with her to kind of like say goodbye and to hold her and love on her. And we took pictures, and there were a lot of tears because I never knew when I would see her again.
Right.
And so then we got her all pretty and dressed up in this cute little outfit, and I carried her down the hall, and I knew that the next few moments were going to be like the most extremely difficult things ever. And so I walked in, I saw her mom and dad, her adoptive parents right there, and I handed my baby over into the arms of her adoptive mom, and I looked awful. Like, we all were like ugly cries all around. I have those pictures of us because we all kind of took pictures together. We took a picture of me and them. We took a picture of me, birth father, them. We took pictures of my parents, and like all of us. And if you look back at those pictures, like the ugliest cry pictures ever, but I think they're important to have and to remember.
Oh yeah.
And we didn't stay long because I felt like that was also their moment. It was such a bittersweet moment. I think it was for both of us.
Yeah.
Like, they were heartbroken for me, but they were also so happy that they were having a baby. And I was heartbroken for me, but I was so happy to be able to give them this gift. And then, like I said, I didn't know when I would ever see her again. So I turned around and walked out the door, and I basically crumbled and fell into my dad's arms because I physically could not walk or move. And my dad had to basically carry me back to my hospital room so that I could pack up my things and leave the hospital without a baby. And I remember like sitting with my dad and him holding me and me just telling him, I can't wait to do this again the right way. And he said, he was like, I can't wait for that either. And I went back to the family that I lived with, and they were so kind. And as much as my healing body could muster, they took me to a bunch of Olympic events, and we got out of the house to try and just get my mind off of, being sad and feeling lonely and empty. And the thing that a lot of people don't think about is birth moms still have to go through all the physical things.
Yeah.
Except without having a baby.
Right.
So, I was wonderfully and painfully engorged with my breasts because my body thinks there's a baby to feed. And I had to heal everywhere else. And I still had to go through all those things that moms have to go through just without the joy of having the baby with you.
Yeah.
And
you don't just give the baby away and then it's done. It's there's all that after stuff.
All that after stuff, for sure. And we, after that I did a lot of counseling, and I went to group therapy and talked with other girls who had done the same thing or who were about to do the same thing. And it was a lot of strength I gained from being around girls in the same situation as me. And I had always felt like this is what I want to do. When I'm healing better, when I'm more healed, I will be able to help other girls in that way too. And shortly after that, I was still a mess, like, for a long time. And shortly after that, I went to a church activity where this mom had twin girls. And she had no idea about my situation, but she came and sat down at our table with her twin girls, who looked probably about the same age.
Oh, yeah.
As Alex is my birth daughter's name. And I lost it. And I ran into the bathroom, and I was just crying. And I told the person I was living with, I was like, we need to leave. I can't be here. And, so I had hard moments, but I still felt at peace. But, she'll be 18 in February, and it has been, like, kind of the longest but quickest 18 years. Like,
yes, yeah.
It's crazy. I mean, I got to see her. I always get that question, well, when did you get to see her again? Because I used to think I would not get to see her until she was 21. Because in the state of Utah, they don't release information until you're 21, till the child is 21 years old.
Okay.
Most states it's 18. But Utah, I don't know why, it's 21. But things kind of change where you could get more open with adoption after they're 6 months old and after the adoption has been finalized. But her parents were really good about writing me. We wrote letters every week up until she was 6 weeks old, and they would send pictures and they would send gifts, and I would write them and let them know how I was doing. And so we had written off and on letters to each other. And when she was 6 years old, my husband and I were driving, or I was going to Utah for something, and I just asked, I said, hey, I would love to be able to see you guys, like, as in her parents, like, go to dinner or something. I don't need to see Alex. I don't have to see Alex.
Yeah.
I just really want to hang out with you guys.
Yeah.
And they didn't write me back for like a week, and I was like, oh crap. What did I do? And anyways.
Yeah.
She wrote me back, and she's like, I think that we could meet up at a park, meaning like you and because I had a daughter by then. And she's like, and I think that we could meet up at a park and just hang out. And I was like, really? And she was like, yeah. And so the first time I saw her after I had placed her for adoption, she was 6 years old. And it was incredible how much, I saw similarities with us.
Yeah.
But I also loved being able to see how she interacted with her mom and dad and how much she loved and adored them.
Oh.
And a lot of people ask, like, was that hard? And I always say it's hard to leave. While I'm there with her, it's like the best day ever. And I love seeing their relationship that she had with her parents. But it's hard to leave. Super hard to leave because I never know when I'll be able to see her again.
Right.
So then the next time I saw her, she was 13. And then 15. And I'm trying to think when the last time I saw her was 16 when her mom got remarried because her parents ended up getting a divorce. Her mom got remarried and they invited me to the wedding. So that was really neat.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, to be able to go and see her. So I'm building this slow relationship with her. But it's more through her mom still, which is okay with me. I'm being patient. Yeah. It's the only thing I'm patient in my life. Doesn't make it easy, but I'm patient.
You don't have a choice, really.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. So you guys have stayed in contact, you and the mom,
yeah,
through this whole process. How beautiful. Like, wow. That's just so powerful. And, because you would know more because you there are times where the adoption is closed or whatever they call it, and you don't get to be witness to that or even to know.
Right.
And that's awesome. Like,
yeah, we've always had the understanding that Alex comes first. whatever she's feeling, I've always been respectful of what her mom says as far as how she thinks Alex would handle a certain situation or what she's comfortable with or whatever. So even though there's a part of me that wants to like be her friend on Instagram or be her friend on whatever other type of platform or know her cell number or whatever to be able to talk to her by myself, that's not something that, you know, her mom's not comfortable with yet. But I think we're also trying to be very careful because teenagers sometimes don't know how they're feeling.
Right.
Like, they're going through all of these feelings.
Right.
So we're trying to just make sure that Alex is ready. And we're actually coming up on this 18th birthday, which I think has made a lot of people nervous. Like, what does that mean for her? What does that mean for me? What does that mean for her mom and dad and her grandparents and all these other people? Because it's not just me, her mom, her adopted mom, and Alex. There's a lot of people involved. And I think a lot of, you know, like my side of the family has all been like, oh, we can't wait till she's 18 because maybe she'll get to be a part of our lives now as a friend. You know, not as, I don't want to be her mom.
Right.
I want to be her friend.
Yeah.
And then there's also feelings on their side of the family of what does this mean for Alex? Is she going to, you know, and I think that maybe Alex is feeling, I don't want to hurt my mom's feelings if I want a relationship with my birth mom type situation. It's really confusing. And, you know, a month or so ago, we had to have a kind of hard conversation and realize that her birthday doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
It literally means that she's 18. It doesn't mean that that's when we have to have communication. Everything is on Alex's timetable, and I will be as patient as I need to be until she's ready to reach out and become my friend. And so, and her mom has, you know, said that it's kind of up to her. It's not up to me. It's not up to her mom. It's up to her and what she wants. And we all have to be respectful of that. And sometimes that's really hard, but I do have a really good relationship with her adoptive mom. And that is a huge blessing because there's not a lot of birth moms that get that. Yeah. And I have a really close relationship with her.
I can imagine. And that is such not easy territory, even when it is good.
No.
To meander through and to work through and to be through. And I can't even begin to pretend to put myself in your shoes. I'm just, as you're telling your story, I'm sitting here like imagining this, like playing this own scenario in my head, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
What strength it took for you. You know, you went through that alone for so long.
Yeah.
And I want to back up to, you know, the boyfriend at the time. Did you recognize at the time that that he had these mentally abusive, or did you kind of take it, or what was your mindset? Did you take on his stuff, or?
Oh yeah, I did.
Yeah.
I mean, so much so that my parents, I think, could tell, because I remember my dad very specifically saying, you can only help somebody so much until it starts affecting you in your life. Because I think that my dad could see that it was internal, like I was internalizing a lot of his issues. And I knew that they were issues, but I didn't know how else because I wanted to help him.
Yeah.
And actually, a little bit of trivia, not trivia, I don't know what you want to say about it, but a lot of times girls that are in abusive relationships or get pregnant are because they're trying to help somebody or fix somebody. And they're helpers. They literally are putting themselves on the back burner to try and help fix somebody else. Even if that means that they are being abused or manipulated or whatever it means, it just means that they're naturally people pleasers and wanting to help other people. And that can be to a fault. And at that time in my life, it was to a fault. Yeah,
that makes sense. So how did you come out of that? Like, how did you carry that stuff with you, and how did you come out of that and begin to recognize, like, this is what was happening, and I'm not deserving of that. I deserve more.
Yeah.
And I'm worth more.
It took me a long time to get over him. I think that just because of everything that we had gone through together. But honestly, when I met my husband, and because shortly after that, I mean, I had dated here and there other guys, but when I first started dating my husband, we were friends at first, and we hung out, we played basketball together, we would just hang out and be goofy together. And I just remember thinking, this is how I should be treated. Like, this is real. Like, this is the right way I should be treated. I mean, he treated me like not like I really had been before. And it was consistent. That was the thing that was different about Jared, my husband, was he was consistently good to me and not hardly, I mean, he was never mean to me or rude to me or, you know, anything like that. And I remember thinking, that's weird. Like, that's what? And I remember when I started to fall in love with him thinking, this is real love. When he makes me want to be better, and I know that I make him want to be better. And it's not me constantly trying to fix somebody else or fix or change him. It was this just feeling of like, wow, this is what real love is supposed to feel like. And it's never trying to guess how he feels or how he's going to react or how he's going to make me feel stupid or whatever. It was never what mood is he going to be in. It was always we make each other happy, and I just knew that that's what I deserved. That it was way better than whatever else, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that it carries on with other relationships though, because like even with women, like if I feel that I have been manipulated or whatever else, like being kind of abused emotionally, like I've had to walk away from a friendship because it took me a while, but I recognized that it was the same relationship that I was dealing with when I was with him, but it was with a friend.
Yeah.
And I eventually had to walk away from her because there were too many similarities, and I thought, I am allowing myself to feel like I did then.
Yeah.
And I can't allow myself to feel like that anymore. And I'm not a person to just be used. And I wanted so badly to be exactly right, the right way for her.
Yeah.
And I realized, why am I trying to prove myself to somebody that should already love me for who I am, and to quit trying to be somebody else? And I think as women, we don't realize that we do that we are trying to constantly change ourselves for other people, when really the people that we should be surrounding ourselves with are the people that already love us for who we are.
Right.
Despite all of our flaws and everything else that's wrong with us, they love us. And they allow us to be us, and they don't try and change us.
That's so powerfully put. Like, I'm thinking about my own relationships and how often have I tried to change myself just to fit in somewhere or belong somewhere for somebody to love me. And so our mutual friend, her and I have committed that we're best friends, and in a relationship we've not ever had before. And we had a conversation, you know, we laugh and joke that we're in the dating stage. We're just, you know, filling each other out. And I go, what if I get to be too much for you? You know, what if I'm too much? Because our personalities are pretty different. Yeah. But there's this connection there that's undeniable, and it's like, you know, when we both have our stuff. We all have our stuff. Yes. And we all bring that stuff to a relationship, and it's like, you know, if we're trying to mold ourselves into a certain way, well, one, why are we trying to do that? Is it really necessary? Is that our stuff, or are we really trying to mold ourselves in a way around for this person? Right. And is that a relationship worth keeping or walking away? And I think oftentimes we'll stay with that relationship way longer than we need to. Absolutely. Or way longer than we should. That's not healthy. Yeah. And, you know, identifying that is so powerful, and walking away from it when it is necessary is super powerful. It is, but it's hard. It is hard. And it's almost like you were saying dating. That's what's funny to me is when I walked away from this friend, I almost felt like I was I went through a breakup. Yeah, you do. I mourned our friendship, and I mourned the good times that we had, but I also feel like a better person from walking away from that. And I truly believe that, you know, there's that saying that you teach people how to treat you. Yes. Yeah. I allowed a lot of things for too long, and it was the same way with him, with the birth father. I allowed him to treat me that way. I gave him permission because I didn't do anything about it. Yes. Because I wanted his love, or he was kind to me at other times, and I don't know what it was, but when people say that they're abused and they stay in this relationship, I totally understand why people stay. I get why they stay, because there are some good times. Mm-hmm. And it's hard, and it doesn't matter how many people tell you to walk away, or that person shouldn't treat you like that, or whatever it is. Until you realize it for yourself, you won't ever be able to walk away. Yeah. Until you realize that for yourself. And, you know, it's a lesson that I've had to learn a couple times in my life. And
I feel much stronger for it. I feel, like, it's interesting because I feel like sometimes thinking back about placing my baby for adoption, I feel like I can do anything.
Yeah.
That was the hardest thing I've ever had to do.
Right?
I can do anything. At the same time, then life happens and these little things come up and you're like, oh, it's so hard. I don't want to do that, or I don't want to go through that, or I don't, whatever.
Yeah.
But I have to remember, I did the hardest thing ever.
Right?
I can do it. I don't know.
It's funny how we can do that. How we can, like me getting sober, like being sober if I can be sober for one day, well, it's been longer than that, but
right.
if you can do that, you can do anything.
Yeah.
But then, life comes your way and all these things happen and you forget that stuff. And it's like, it's just, it always baffles me when I hear somebody else repeat that same thing.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's funny.
But I think is healing is talking about our stuff.
Yep.
Like me helping other girls who have gone through the same situation, or you being open about your story. I was closed off for so long and didn't want to tell people my story because I was afraid of judgments.
Right.
I was afraid, well, what are they going to think when they know that I had a baby? And and there were times in my life where I didn't have to explain everything because it was painful.
Yes.
And but I don't even remember when it was. Maybe when she was 5 or something, I decided I'm going to share this with the world. I need to share this. And so I wrote a blog about it, and I just feel like there was so much more support than I ever gave myself credit for. Like, I thought, I don't know what people are going to think. They're going to think I'm a horrible person because I gave my baby away to somebody else.
Yeah.
But really, it opened the door for a lot of conversations and a lot of education, and it really healed me. Like, it helped to heal when I talked about it, and I was able to reach out to other girls who were going through a similar situation and help them kind of shuffle through all of their feelings, because when you're in that situation, you feel alone.
Yeah.
Even though there are other people who are going through the same thing, but you still feel like I'm the only person in the whole world that has ever felt this pain.
Yeah.
And so I've been able to open up and help other people, and also be on a panel like for adoptive parents who are kind of wanting to know how birth moms feel.
That's awesome.
So I've been able to educate people all around, and it's just very therapeutic and helpful, because there are days that I still have hard days. I have hard...
Absolutely.
The month of February, I'm a hot mess because I think about her all the time, or I think about the days leading up to her birth and then placing her for adoption and all those things. And it's a hard time for me, but at the same time, I've never, ever, ever once regretted my decision. I knew that was the right thing to do. And now I use the hurt and pain that I've gone through to help others who are going through that same pain.
Yeah. Yeah. And I believe that saying, we're as sick as our darkest secrets, and we can't heal unless we're willing to talk about them.
Yeah.
And that is absolutely sometimes the hardest thing to do, but just the relief that comes. That's one thing I always wish I can convey to people, especially people who are in addiction or hurting, the stuff I'm familiar with. And it's like, if you only just give yourself that gift of just going and finding out.
Yeah.
If you decide it doesn't work for you and you want to stay in the dark, okay, there's nothing I can do about that. But if you just allow yourself that opportunity, like the relief you can get. And it's so, like, even though my story is different from yours, I now have a better understanding of what it may be like for somebody that I could come across that has been in a similar situation on either side for you.
Right.
And it opens up my mind to think and have more compassion maybe in a way I wouldn't have before. Right. And so being able to open up and hear each other's stories like that, it's more than just gifting the mom who is freaking out because she doesn't know if she should give her baby up or not. Right. It's the people around her too that you'll be able to speak to.
Yeah.
So that is so amazing. Is your daughter, if you want to share, is there any indication from her that she wants to continue and grow that relationship with you?
Yeah, I think so. I think that, she's still I think she's nervous about turning 18 and being a senior in high school and going out on her own.
It's a hard time.
Yeah, it is a hard time. And I think throwing in that, you're adopted with all of that. And she's known from day one that she was adopted. But I think that she's old enough now where she's kind of understanding, like, why was I adopted? Like, why, what does all this mean? And I have to respect that she's also going through a bunch of feelings where I've had almost 18 years to kind of sift through my feelings
Yeah.
and be, as an adult though, you know, our brains are a little bit different than theirs. And,
yeah.
but you know, her mom has been amazing, and she's been in counseling, and which I think is awesome. Like, what an amazing thing for her mom to recognize that there are some things that are just important, and maybe her going to counseling to talk to a therapist about all of her feelings is something important for her to do. And so I think that we will, because when we're around each other, it's like we're friends. We're good friends. We've hung out. Speaking of dating, it's kind of like when you said about our friend that you guys are in this like dating stage. It's so funny because I likened, last time I saw her was for her mom and stepdad's wedding. And I felt like I was kind of like this person who started dating somebody and I wanted to be with them all the time. And I wanted to just like watch what she was doing. And I really wanted to ask for her phone number, but I couldn't because of just the situation. And I didn't want to be this like creeper who was like always watching her, but I just wanted to watch her mannerisms. And I wanted to watch how she was with her friends. And I remember telling my husband, like, I really want her to come up here and just talk to me. But I didn't want to be overbearing and have her think like, that weirdo won't leave me alone. And, anyway, shortly after that, she came up and introduced me to all of her friends. And she's like, this is my birth mom, Heidi. And that was just a really neat moment for me because I was like, you know, maybe she is okay with me being a little bit of a part of her life. But I think that we will become friends. I think that it will be a slow process.
Yeah.
That will kind of go into whenever she's ready for it. I'm not going to force anything because I've gotten this far. I'm not going to push that girl away now.
Yeah,
you know, like,
right?
I feel
now
so
it's
close.
even more eggshelly.
But I told her mom, I said, if it means that I don't get to talk to her until she's 45, so be. But I want to do it on her timetable, and I'll be patient.
Yeah.
But I think we will become friends.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I so appreciate you sharing your story. I have lots more questions I could ask you. I have a lot more like, oh, let's talk about this. But I think that for the sake of time, we maybe one day down the road, I'd love to have you back and we can talk more. There's things that are coming up like, I want to know, well, what about this part? And, all this thing. So, no, I just thank you so much. Where can, if this touches somebody and they just absolutely have to talk to you, where can they find you?
So they can find me on Facebook, Heidi Brower, or if I'm on Instagram as Heidi Dub 34. People don't know it.
I'll find. I will find and put your info in the show notes.
Yeah, do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you. Is there anything else that is just dying to get off of your heart that you want to share at this point in time?
No, I just think that it's important to talk about why we are who we are and be open about that and be vulnerable, because I think that we'll find out more about each other, like more what we're alike than we are different. And I think that's what makes women powerful.
Yeah.
Is when we come together and share our stories together.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. I think we could just do a more focused episode even on that and just absolutely. So I loved having this conversation with you. You had tears in my eyes. I think you're going to inspire so many women.
Thank you.
And sharing your story, just keep getting it out there and talking to people because there's so much power in that. So,
thank you. Well, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, thanks.
And thanks to our mutual friend for connecting us.
Yes, thank you. You know who you are.